Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew a dartless corset. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So here is my pattern paper, and first I'm going to mark my measurement. So I'm going to mark my shoulder to bust line, which is 9 inches, shoulder to under bust line, which is 12 inches, shoulder to waistline, which is 17 inches. Then I'm going to stop where my pattern paper stopped, that's 20.5. So if you want to make this an inbuilt corset, you're going to place and use up to 20 to 26 inches depending, or you can even stop at 24, so 22 to 24 inches. So I went ahead to repeat all those marks, and now I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to draw a straight line. So I'll repeat that for my underbust and my waistline. So I'll go ahead to outline my pattern, and at the lower part I'm going to label as top length. So I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2. I'm not attaching sleeve to it, so I won't add ½ inch. Go down by 1 inch, and I'm going to connect to draw my shoulder slope this way. Now I'm going to place my tape and I'll mark the standard neckline, which is 3 by 3 inches, and I'm going to use my French curve to connect. So if you don't have a French curve, this is not a problem. Go ahead and make use of your freehand sketch. So after that, I'm going to outline the neckline and the shoulder. So next, I'm going to go ahead to draw out my chest line, and to get your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So after dividing and adding, mine is 7 inches. I went ahead to make a mark at that point, and I placed my ruler and drew a straight line. So now I'm going to place and I'm going to connect from the chest line down to the shoulder slope. To draw my armhole curve, I'm going to divide what I have into 2. So I'll go ahead and fold my tape up this way. So after folding it, I'm going to mark at that point, go in by ½ inch. So now at the chest line, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So I'll be using that as a guide. After marking that, I'm going to place my French curve, connecting from the chest line down to the armhole, that ½ inch we came in at the armhole, and I'm going to go ahead to take it up to the shoulder. So I'm going to use my marker to outline it so that it will be more visible. So this is what I have at this point. So now I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So I'm not going to draw out any dart. I'm just going to use this line to serve as a guideline when I'm drawing out my cup. So now I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing a straight line. So at the shoulder, I'm going to divide what I have into 2, and I'm going to go ahead to connect from that point down to the chest line. So now I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which puts me here, and I will be adding ½ inch for joining allowance. So for this pattern, we are just adding ½ inch for joining allowance. So going down to the underbust, I'll mark the underbust circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to go ahead to add ½ inch for joining allowance. Now going down to my waist pattern, I'm not going to use my waist exact measurement. So my waistline is 28, minusing 2 inches from that, I have 26. 26 divided by 4, I have 6.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to add ½ inch to it. So I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4. So I won't be adding half to mine. Why? Because my top is not actually getting to my hip point. So if yours is getting to your hip point, go ahead to mark that ½ inch. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect my pattern. So after that, I'm going to go ahead to outline my pattern this way. So I'll place my ruler, go up by 2 inches, and I'll slant it down. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to trace out my pattern and I will cut it out. So I'll be using this exact pattern to cut out my back pattern. This is more like an easier way to save yourself from the stress of cutting another pattern. But I'm just going to make sure that the lines align. So look at my previous line where I have the bust line, the underbust, the waistline, the chest line. So I'm just going to place my pattern, make sure that it aligns, and I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. So I did this because this is actually a dartless corset, so there's no dart in front and there's no dart at the back, so you are going to have the exact thing together. So for the back, I went ahead to trim out about 1.5 in front and not by the side. I'm cutting out from the center, like where the loop is going to be. So the reason why I'm doing this is that the back pattern is always shorter than the front pattern. So now we'll move back to our front pattern. So now from my chest line, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to extend that line down to my bust line this way. So this is serving as a guide to draw out my cup. So now I'm going to place my cup, the already made cup that you have. You're going to place it, and I'm going to draw it out this way. So when you're placing it, you can tilt it a little. Just place it to achieve what you want actually. So after placing my cup, I'm just going to use it to draw out my yoke and go out by 1/2 inch at that point. So I'm going to follow the line upwards and trace it down to my chest line, then trace the lower part. So make sure your cup is touching your under bust. So by this side, I'm going to be connecting it this way. So this is what I have on my corset right now. So I'll go ahead and readjust the line I have at this point and clean the upper mark that I made. So now this is what I have for my corset, and I'm going to go ahead to outline my corset pattern. I'll mark this as yoke at this part, and on this part, if you notice, our corset has a line. So what we have is actually slanty, but mine is straight. So when we're actually sewing the dress, I'm going to make it slanty. So I just went ahead to rule out those 3 lines we have on the corset pattern. So this is what I have. So the next step is to go ahead and cut out my corset. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and leave your comment at the comment section. If you have any question concerning this particular corset pattern, please leave your question at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button so that you can follow us up on our sewing and drafting tutorials. So after I'm done cutting out, this is what my pattern looks like. Very simple and easy. Now we'll be going over to our back pattern. So remember those lines that we have on the front pattern that exceeded to the back. So we are going to use that line as a guide, and we are going to go ahead to draw out, place our ruler, and we are going to draw a straight line on those points. So I'm not necessarily using those lines, it's just for it to serve as a guide. So I'm going to go ahead to place, and I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 3.5 inches. So now this is where my yoke will be starting, my yoke for the back. So that's why I'm marking out this line. I want to use it as a guideline. So after marking, I'm going to place my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead to connect. So after connecting, the next step is to go ahead, I will come down by 1 inch from the neckline. So if you notice, when we were cutting out the neckline of the back, I didn't use that exact 3 by 3 inches. I went up a bit on the depth of the neckline. So after that point, I'm just going to place and connect to what I have at the center of the pattern. After connecting from the center, I'm just going to go ahead to mark 1.5 inches. So now I want to go ahead and create the lacing bar area of my corset pattern. So I'm just going to mark, and after marking, I'm going to go ahead to take my ruler and I'm going to connect from the lower part to the waist, to the underbust, and down to the bust or chest line. So this is what I have at this point, and I'm just going to take out the extra mark I have on my pattern, which I did by mistake. And now I'm going to go ahead to outline my pattern. So after doing that, I'm just going to make a dot to indicate the area for my lacing bar, and I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. So I'll mark the yoke and remove about 0.25 inches from the yoke, so that I'm not going to have gaping after sewing the yoke part of the dress. So this is my final result. So join us in our next video where we'll be doing the sewing pattern of this particular dress.